Migration, Chapter 3, featuring Vrinda, Tom, and Yashvini, and Anjuman and Sim. Is migration confusing to you? Then this video is likely to clear it up. So let's meet the team who made up this chapter, shall we? Kyushu 1, where are migrants distributed? Kyushu 2, where do people migrate within a country? Kyushu 3, why do people migrate? Finally, Kyushu 4, why do migrants face obstacles? And extra terms, not picture. Each of these key issues are broken down further throughout the video. Kyushu 1, a good friend of mine, describes the distribution of where immigration occurs around the world. The United States plays a key role in the distribution of global migration because for more than 2 centuries, it's been the most important destination for migration. This is a comparison of the demographic and migration transition models. As you can see, they're related closely as one causes the other. So, fascinating, isn't it? As you can see, migration can either be international, between countries, either voluntary or forced, or internal, within a country, either interregional or intra-regional. As you can see, this is important as the globe is exclaiming with the exclamation point of how important it is that you remember this. We will go farther into detail about inter versus intra and forced versus forced versus voluntary later. As we can do right now, in fact, voluntary migration is when the migrant has chosen to move, especially for economic improvement, whilst forced migration is when a migrant has been compelled to move, especially by political or environmental factors. This might seem clean cuts, but internal and inter-regional versus intra-regional is a little less clean cut. Inter-regional migration is moving from one region of a country to another region within the country, usually from rural to suburban in search of jobs or urban to environmental, especially environmentally attractive areas, mostly in developed countries. Intra-regional, on the other hand, is when you move within one region. Clear, isn't it? Oh, good old America. The United States has 3 main areas of immigration. The principal source of immigrants has shifted from Europe during the first 2 eras to Latin America and Asia during the 3rd and current era. So you can see it's constantly shifting. Isn't that fascinating? Moving on to another good friend of mine, Kyushu 2. Kyushu 2 looks at the local diversity of immigration within countries. Some places and regions within countries attracted migrants, whereas migrants may move away from other places and regions. Historically, he's happy to teach you more about this. Historically, interregional migration was especially important in settling the frontiers of large countries like Russia, Canada, the United States, China, and Brazil. The most important interregional migration trends are from rural to urban areas within developing countries. Oh, whoopsie-doo, it seems like we're having some technical issues. So we'll wait this one out and maybe cut this out later. If you're still watching this, we haven't cut it out. There you go. Another 1,000 for you. But as you can see, we've gone back in time to review once more what Kyushu 2 is trying to explain to you. It's inter versus intra. So we shall wait for technical issues to be solved. So, how's your day been? Fancy meeting you here. This is the wrong. Seems the technical issues has been solved. We will now talk about Historically, internal interregional migration was especially important in settling the frontiers of large countries like Russia, Canada, the United States, China, and Brazil. The most important interregional migrant trends, as will be seen once the button has been clicked and the program decides to work. Oh, see, right there. The most important interregional migrant trends are from rural to urban areas within developing countries, and from cities to suburbs within developed countries. As you can see, when you move from rural to urban, it's for an economic opportunity, but urban to suburban is with a nice view. Key issue 3, a good mate of mine from uni, discusses the principal reasons why people actually migrate, because it influences the places and regions that are the sources and destinations of migrants. Migration is induced by a combination of push and pull factors. People feel compelled to emigrate from a location for political, environmental, and economic reasons. Likewise, people are pulled to immigrate because of the political, environmental, and economic factors attracting us to a new location. People normally migrate for temporary work, especially from developing countries to already developed countries where they take jobs that are not desired by local residents. An example of this would be the flows of migrant workers in Europe and Asia. Moving on to another good friend of mine, Key issue 4. Key issue 4 will be on the screen shortly. Key issue 4 summarizes issues that arise as a result of migration and the globalization of world communication and transportation. It is easier than in the past to travel from one place to another, yet the ability of people to migrate is more limited than in the past by legal obstacles and the hostility of people at the place of destination. Migrants have difficulty getting permission to enter other countries, and they face hostility from local citizens once they arrive. Immigration laws restrict the number of migrants who can legally enter the United States. This is what's called a quota. In Europe and Southwest Asia, temporary workers migrate to perform menial jobs. People normally migrate for what we like to call temporary work, especially from developing countries to already developed countries where they take jobs that are not desired by local residents. An example of this would be the flows of migrants workers in Europe and Asia. In the past, most migrants were males coming to the United States, but now there are an increasing number of women and children are immigrants to the US because, yay, girl power. The United States shelters more than 11 million unauthorized immigrants who are in the country without proper documents. Majority of them have immigrated from Mexico. Americans and Europeans are divided on how to regard immigrants, especially unauthorized. But before you go along with your jolly day to study for your semester exams, there are a few things we must talk about. We would like to call them extra terms. The first extra term we would like to cover is cyclic movement, which is the area that the things we do on a day-to-day basis take us through. It starts at home and it ends at home, but the time in between varies per person. There's 3 main kinds. We like to call them commuting, seasonal, and nomadism. 3 fascinating kinds. There's also a gravity model, which shows that interaction is positively related to population and inversely related to distance, push, and pull factors. Technological advancements and make it easier for people to migrate, but as we mentioned before, legal obstacles makes it harder. But many migration happen because of armed conflict and civil war. A few examples of this, we would like to. These people are called refugees. Currently, there's a problem with refugee because it is difficult to define what a refugee is. Refugees, but we have come up with 4 main terms to what you could call them. Refugees move only what they can carry. Due to the urgent circumstances of their situation, a refugee will only have time to bring what they absolutely needed. Most refugees don't use modern modes of transportations to take the quote-unquote first step. Refugees move without official documents. A few examples of where refugees happen in sub-Saharan Africa because of the Arab Muslim versus Arab Muslims, there's the African Muslim conflict in Darfur, and Somalia because of how lawless it is. Another example, this would be South Asia because of the problem with Pakistan and India. Also, there's the fact that Pakistan houses some of the world's most Afghanistan refugees. There's all a problem in Southeast Asia, Europe, and elsewhere. By elsewhere, I mean other areas don't really have refugee problems, but Colombia has some refugee problems for its drug cartels. Thank you for your time, and we will hope you do well on your exam. We're going to wish you some good luck, but you won't need it after watching this thorough presentation. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time.